You're listening to the Archaeology Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Archaeology Show. TAS goes behind the headlines to bring you the real stories about archaeology and the history around us. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Archaeology Show, episode 293.
On today's show, we talk about sunstones, hidden Incan tunnels, and powerful Celtic women.
Let's dig a little deeper. I mean, there's got to be some more tunnels down there. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
Sorry for missing a week, but sometimes you're sick in the wintertime.
Oh my gosh. It was just like back to back. Like first I was sick and I had no voice, and then
I was sick.
Then you were sick, and it was all of a sudden
I know.
the week was gone. It was like, well, there's no point in doing one now. So
it's like my one time though. It's you're sick all the time.
I'm not
in
sick
the winter.
all the time.
Yeah,
that's not true.
Every other week.
That's not true.
And that's my one time.
That is okay.
Yeah.
All of that is not true.
So I had my deal. So hopefully I won't miss any more podcasts.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I'll just
you do have an interview coming up. So
crap.
I think it's next week.
Yeah, it is next week.
Yeah. So that'll be fun.
I have no information because I'm a bad podcast host. I didn't even know you were going to say that.
You'll get it together before your interview. It's fine.
Yeah. No, I've looked at stuff. It's on the calendar.
Yep.
Scheduled the night before on my calendar to look at it, send a link.
Yep.
But I'm doing the interview. Yeah. So this is actually the next episode will more than likely be that interview unless we hold it and do news.
Yeah.
So.
It'll depend on when the recording happens and whether it. Yeah. So either the next one or the one after that. It'll be that one. Yeah.
So, but we got a lot of news to catch up on. So
we do have so much news. And because we missed a week and we prepared this episode last week to record last week and then we both got sick. Mm-hmm. This news is already like a week behind. So and there's even more just piling up.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So anyway.
Okay. Well, this first article is called... It's from Smithsonian Magazine, and it's called Neolithic Farmers May Have Buried These Mysterious Stones to Bring Back the Sun After a Volcanic Eruption. Yeah. Which is crazy that people just think, oh, let me just make this thing and then bury it, and that will somehow, I don't know. They probably didn't bury him. I don't know, maybe they didn't bury him.
I think they were. This was a really cool story, and again, we're getting into some speculation stuff, which, we always like to point that out.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of speculation when it's 5,000 years old. It's
like archaeology, right? A lot of it just is speculation, and you just have to know that and be okay with it, right? Okay, so what these are. They are engraved stone plaques, and they date to 2900 BCE, and they have been found in Denmark.
Yeah, the picture just... Start with that.
Yeah.
Because they look like somebody was trying to either draw a spider web or almost like tree rings.
Yeah, they do. They look like tree rings. And some of them, like the one on the right in the picture, looks more spider webby, and then the one on the left looks more like laddered almost. Yeah. When you look at the drawings. But they are very clear engravings, and they definitely had a very clear purpose. We're just trying to figure out that purpose. So...
Yep.
And then the site that they've been found at is called the Vasgard West Archaeological Site, and it's on the Danish island of Bornholm. Mm-hmm. And that island is located in the Baltic Sea in between Poland and Sweden.
Yep.
So this is on
We'll say hi as we fly past it.
Yeah, right. On our way to Sweden.
Next week, next month.
Yep. So in the article, there's only... the two that they show a picture of, I think. I only saw the two. Yeah. But they've actually found a lot. Yeah. 614 whole or fragmented pieces. And they do, like you were saying before, they do seem like they were purposely deposited into these ditches. And they were later filled in and covered with a layer of pottery and animal bones and artifacts. So either they were put somewhere and then trash was deposited on top of it, or they were put this way on purpose with the stuff on top of it. It's not really sure, but yeah. Yeah.
They actually published this in January in the journal Antiquity, and that link is in the show notes, so go check it out.
Yeah, there is more pictures and stuff in that picture too, or in that link as well.
So the researchers that saw this did not see spider webs or ladders or tree rings. Right. They saw rays, and for that reason, they're calling them sunstones. Yeah. And I don't know if, maybe there's a history of this type of thing in this culture. This culture is called the funnel beaker culture, and that's the group of farmers that inhabited the island at that time. Yep. A fairly well-known culture at that time.
I think we have talked about them on various other episodes too.
And I don't know, again, if this shape or this style or, this whole thing, I mean, they're round, lots of things are round though. Mm-hmm. And with these, there is an emanation from the center, but lots of things in nature actually do that. Mm-hmm. And again, they're calling them sunstones, and they're going to talk about linking these with some other stuff here to solidify their theory here in a minute. Yeah. But I'm just like, do you have correlating evidence that these are related to the sun? I mean, do you have other? How do you know it's the sun? Well, I just would not leap to that.
That's what's interesting about this article is they didn't know what they were for at all. And there was an assumption at first, of course, that it was some kind of fertility offering. Ritual, right? Because that's when you find something like this, you don't know what the meaning of it is. That's sort of always the jump to conclusion thing because you don't know. So therefore ritual.
Right.
But what I liked about this is that, no, you can't say for sure that these engravings are actual rays of a sun, right?
Yeah.
It's just, it could be. And then what they did is they were like, well, if these are rays of a sun, why would they have wanted to engrave these and then bury them in their agricultural fields? Let's go look in the geological record and see if we can find something that might have prompted them to make these engravings. So that's what they did.
Right. So I was asking questions, as you should, as an archaeologist, right?
Yeah.
If I'm seeing something, is this a one-off? Or is this more common? Mm-hmm. Right? And that's exactly what they did. They said if this were a more common thing, they would see them all the time.
They would, yeah.
But they don't.
Yeah.
So that's why they're like, well, okay, so what does that mean?
Yeah. They have only found these sunstones at this one site. Mm-hmm. And not only that, it's limited to this one place, but it also seems to be limited to a short period of time, archaeologically speaking. Yeah. So both of those things are like, okay, well, there must be some reason why they did this. Mm-hmm. Let's see if we can find that reason.
Yeah. Yep. So they went looking in the geological record because this was 5,000 years ago. That's pretty much the only place you can look.
Yep.
So they went looking in the geological record for evidence of a natural disaster or climatic event that could have affected crops because, I mean, these are farmers and pretty much their whole livelihood is crop based.
Yeah.
So if they're going to bury these things and they're going to go on the theory that this is crop fertility related, well, let's find something that'll affect crops, right?
Yeah.
So,
and they can find out a lot from the geological record, but they do need to have something to kind of direct their research and their focus. So, because these stones do kind of look like the rays of a sun, they specifically looked for something that might have affected the visibility of the sun, which would then affect the ability for crops to grow or, that kind of thing.
Yeah, which is kind of narrows it down a bit.
It does narrow it down a bit. Yeah. And it is, kind of like trying to prove your own hypothesis sort of a thing.
Yeah.
But you have to narrow it down in some way. So
right. You can't just look in the entire world and say, hey, is anything going to hurt crops right now?
There's not a library of geologic record that you can just go and see all the things. You have to focus your energy somewhere.
There kind of is. But yeah, you can't be so broad. Right. So, but ice core samples from Greenland and Antarctica contain evidence of a volcanic eruption around 2900 BCE. Now you might be thinking, well, first off, Antarctica is quite a ways away from Denmark. Yeah. Greenland's not.
Yeah.
I mean, Greenland is owned by Denmark, as some people in our government are,
and will continue to be.
Yeah. Continue. Hopefully, continue to be. Anyway,
not to get political.
Yes. But anyway, Antarctica, and you're thinking, okay, why so far away? But anyway, I mean, you get a large volcanic event, and these things travel around the world, and then are just encased in these ice cores. I mean,
you'll find evidence of it everywhere.
Yeah, it lands on there, and literally hundreds of millions of years of climatic change is recorded in ice cores. It's crazy. So, anyway,
because they had ice cores from the two opposite sides of the world.
Yeah,
they were able, I'm guessing based on the volume of the ash that they found in the ice core samples, they were able to figure out that the blast seems to have occurred near the equator, and that it likely did affect a large area, resulting in ash plumes and haze that might have blocked out the sun.
Sure.
So that's what those samples from the different sides of the world could tell them about this potential eruption.
Yeah, so would have been a pretty bad time. So the sun's getting blocked, temperatures would have dropped, cats and dogs sleeping together. It's just a whole mass hysteria.
Wow.
You got bonus points for who gets the movie quote.
I don't know.
Ghostbusters.
Oh, right. Sorry. That's not that was on my wheelhouse.
Come on. I hope somebody got that. Anyway.
So yeah, the effects would have been devastating. And not only to the current crops, but also to the future seasons, because they need the seeds from the current crop in order to plant for the next season. So like it just would have interrupted the entire like growing process.
I mean, they could have just gone to Village Depot and picked up some more.
Nope.
Seriously. All right.
So they kind of touched on this in the article, but it also feeds into like a larger theory or idea about Europe at this time. There's a thing called the Neolithic decline, which is basically a decrease in Europe's human population also at this same time around the entire continent. And, you know, there's lots of reasons put forth by various academic peoples over the years. And honestly, it's probably a combination of all of them, you know, disease, war, famine, all of the things that caused human population to decline. But we can throw this climactic event in there as well as another thing that would have helped drive this population decline.
One more piece to the puzzle.
One more piece. It's never one big reason. It's always like multiple things. I think that's like the one takeaway I've learned over the years from reading articles like this, you know?
All right. Well, we're going to go from here over to the other side of the world and to what I'm going to call is basically just an Indiana Jones style article.
It totally
because it's like a professor going off a rumor from an old exploration, and it's just like you find a cavern and a labyrinth, and it's just unrealistic. Somebody's going to make a movie out of this.
You can't. It's like unbelievable that this is true.
All right. Back in a minute.
At Kroger, an annual Boost membership just got even better. Now you can choose from Disney Plus with ads, Hulu with ads, or ESPN Plus on us when you sign up. Plus, enjoy unlimited free delivery, double fuel points, exclusive offers, and free items. Sign up for a Boost membership today. It's an easier way to save, including new streaming options to relax with while we deliver your groceries. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Welcome back to episode 293 of the Archaeology Show. And now we're going to go over to Peru, South America, and we're going to find out what some incredibly popular mechanics like to think about archaeology.
Oh, my God.
Again, not the unpopular mechanics, the popular mechanics.
Right.
Why they care about archaeology, I couldn't tell you. Just trying to get clicks.
Do you think that mechanic refers to a person? Or maybe it's just the mechanics of a thing?
Listen, I understand it's the mechanics of a thing, but archaeology? They're just trying to get clicks.
They are.
Stay in your lane, popular mechanics.
Okay,
My grandpa used to build boats and radios and things out of popular mechanics, not read archaeology articles.
Well, people who like that kind of stuff are just interested in things. You need to stop ranting about popular mechanics. That's your last one. You're done. You're cut off. And also, when I found this article, I found one from IFL Science too, because I like that website. So we have two to choose from. So if you have a vendetta against mechanics, apparently, like you, then
IFL that website.
Okay, so what this is about is the existence of a tunnel network under the ancient Peruvian city of Cuzco. Apparently, it's been rumored for centuries, which is, you know, so cool and not shocking at all. And I've talked about this before, but, you know, I've been here many, many years ago at this point. And anytime anything...
Drink. Rachel talk about going to Peru.
I know, right? Seriously. It was just such an influential time in my life. I loved it there so much. And Cuzco is such a cool city. And so of course I was drawn in by this article.
Yeah. It was said that there was a labyrinth of tunnels beneath the Incan Temple of the Sun in Cuzco. Yeah. And this network of tunnels is known as a chincana.
Yeah, I got the impression. Yeah, I think that is just the Spanish word for labyrinth or tunnel network or something like that.
Yeah.
So, Now, this is so cool. The first mention of the tunnels was by an anonymous Spanish Jesuit priest who wrote about a tunnel in 1594 that connect the bishop's housing area, which was somewhere in Cuzco, to the Cuzco Cathedral. Right. So that's when they say rumors, they like really mean rumor. Like that's a deep rumor right there, like a 600-year-old rumor or whatever, a 400-year-old rumor. So that's what they're talking about when they say rumors. I
mean, what was the text that was like the rumor? This Jesuit priest just going, I'll bet he's got a back door to his room from the labyrinth. Right. Like, what was the rumor?
I think he just mentioned that there was an underground passage to get from one to the other in a letter to somebody, and like that's they've got that. They know that existed.
Well, apparently there were also other mentions of tunnels in later documents that gave researchers an idea of where to look. I mean, if you've got one rumor back here, you've got mentions in other documents that are not connected.
Yeah.
Chances are there's something to it, right? Mm-hmm. Unless they're all building off each other.
They could be, but the more you have, the more likely it's that there's something to this rumor. Mm-hmm. And in this case, they decided to start with what they're calling acoustic prospecting, which I guess is basically like banging on the ground to find any areas that sounded like hollow or different.
Only archaeologists would call it acoustic prospecting. Seriously.
I'm like, what do those guys look like? Like walking down the like cobblestone streets of Cuzco, like tink, 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 tink.
Then they used actual like acoustic prospecting, ground penetrating radar, but not acoustic.
Yeah.
So radar prospecting to map the specific tunnels.
Yeah. So I guess the acoustic thing gave them a general area to look in, and
it's
then
actually pretty cool.
Yeah, which is cool. And then they used GPR to actually create a map. So and a real map. Like they think that they found actual tunnels, including, this is from archaeologist Jorge Calero Flores, who said he thinks that they found a main branch connecting the temple in Cuzco to Sacsayhuaman, which if you remember our episode or one of our episodes about ancient apocalypse, we talked about that, which is it's outside of the city, over a mile away. So that is a really long way for an underground tunnel to go and to still be intact too.
See, what was in that Jesuit priest's like diary? He was like, the bishop told me he could get to a Sacsayhuaman from his bedroom chamber. He's like, I know there's a tunnel somewhere.
Oh, you're such a 13-year-old boy. Always
saying.
And forever.
Just saying. He overheard something. He's like, I don't know what this means.
Yeah.
But I know what I heard.
Yeah.
Anyway, there are also 3 smaller branches to other areas of the city. One near the Church of San Cristobal, and another to near the fortress, and a third to, I don't know how to pronounce this word, Cayespuquio.
It's just another part of the city, basically.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. They've done just this GPR and the mapping from it so far. So, they've got some more work to do here, obviously, but the Peru Archaeologists Association said that the Incas would have first dug trenches and then supported them with stone walls and then put in curved beam ceilings, apparently. So I guess they must have evidence from other sites on how they would have built tunnels to know how they would have done this. That's what I'm guessing anyway from reading this.
I really hope the Peru Archaeologists Association goes by Parcas.
They might. I don't know.
Yeah, I would want to join that.
Okay.
Yes. Calero Flores says that the tunnel system is roughly 8.5 feet wide and 5.2 feet high. I love how he said roughly. And then gives decimal feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's because it's meters. It's converted from meters into feet.
Either way.
Yeah.
That's pretty...
Yeah.
It's pretty precise.
Well, also, 5.2 feet is not that high, even for... 500 years ago. So that would have been tough to walk through.
That would have been tough for me to walk through.
Very tough for you. A little bit easier for me.
Yeah. Of course, the next step is to figure out how to get inside them. They just need an entrance point. They're probably not going to want to destroy the tunnels.
Right.
I mean, more than likely, I don't know what kind of clearance they would have in Peru to do that. What kind of laws and regulations they have. I mean, if they can't find an entrance, are they going to get the ability to just kind of like,
cut through and just
at
get
some
in
point?
There? Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, because they've mapped it, there's probably a thin spot maybe.
Yeah.
Where they could get through with minimal damage, but then they have no idea what they're damaging.
Yeah. So this article was like a good example of more of a press release as opposed to an actual academic article.
Yeah.
So they didn't really give any specifics about how they thought that they could get inside these tunnels or anything like that, or what the actual, like you said, the thinness or the thickness or what the walls are made of or anything like that. They're kind of just building off of speculation right now. So,
well, if I was to draw up a plan, speaking archaeologically and digging a little bit deeper, if you will,
we do like to do that.
We do like to do that. You would use the available evidence. Hopefully, the GPR gave you some idea of depth, which it can.
Yeah,
and you would obviously want to find one of two things. One, you would find a spot where the distance between you and the tunnel is less, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to dig very far.
Yeah.
And then also, I don't know if they got an idea of the thickness of the ceiling of the tunnel or the wall or whatever they're next to on the tunnel. Like where is it on the tunnel, right?
Yeah.
Because if they can excavate, well, first off, they got to watch their safety, right? Because if they excavate down, will the tunnel cave in?
Right.
What about the researchers, right? Because if they can excavate dirt out of the way, they might be able to lift out stones because chances are it's got like a stone ceiling. But then, like I said, that thing is going to just cave in at some point.
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, what are the chances that this mile-long underground tunnel is truly still a tunnel? It's probably in various states of collapse all the way down. Yeah. So I don't know. But my thought with getting into it is if they know that it begins and ends at these certain very specific places, like wouldn't you start there and try to find the access point, the original access point?
Right.
Because that would seem like the easiest way to get in. It just might take some trial and error, and you don't want to ruin some part of an old building or something like that in the process, obviously. But
yes, that would take some tunnel and error to get in there. I think.
Anyway, super cool. I will be very excited to see what comes of this Indiana Jones tunnel excavation. So I feel like it needs to be like a movie or something.
But you know who they need running that project? A powerful Iron Age woman.
They do.
They could find one in Britain.
They could.
All right, let's go there. Bye. I mean, back in a minute. We're not done. Welcome back to episode 293 of the Archaeology Show. Don't shake your head. Don't shake your head. That's right. That's how it goes.
I'm editing all of that out.
No, I know. I'm probably editing this at this point. So, and it's all staying in. Okay, so this is another article in our long-standing series of women did more crap than we thought they did.
Yep.
And were more powerful.
My favorite thing.
The article is called Celtic Tribes DNA Points to Female Empowerment in Pre-Roman Britain. Now, take this with a grain of salt. It's from New Scientist. They're just getting off the ground. They're new at this.
Oh, my God.
But they are scientists. So...
one thing I didn't realize, though, when I picked this article is that you, I guess, have to have an account to read it. And they say it's free. I don't know. We read it on Apple News where we have an account. So
did you leave the other link in there?
I put the Apple article in. So people,
and the other one?
Yeah, they're both in there. Yeah.
So I mean, if you want a New Scientist account, you can go get one and read it online. And I don't know if they're free or not. Whatever. If you happen to have an Apple device, you can read it on Apple News for free. Just find it by searching for it.
If you have an Apple News subscription. But yeah.
I think the basic Apple News is free. Apple News Plus is what you pay for. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, whatever.
Either way. So,
So this was cool. Of course, it again grabbed our attention because we love this topic, and the more and more research is coming out about it. So it's really great.
Yeah.
But
so anyway.
And real quick, this is based on work that was published in Nature, which is also open source, so you can go and look at it there as well. It's just very jargony and
Nature-y.
sciencey. Yeah.
So all right. So researchers did you know what? I have to mention something really fast.
Okay.
Because again, there might be Apple haters out there, but that's okay. Something I just noticed on the last article, and I was going to mention this before the end of the last segment, and I totally forgot. When I'm doing this on my iPad, so I'm not sure if my computer's doing this or not, but when I'm doing this on my iPad and I've got the Safari link open, I usually go into reader mode, okay? Because reader mode gets away all the ads and everything. Yeah. Well, I noticed something on the last article, because I'm in the Apple News article now, so I don't know it on this one. In the last article, it had a summarize button. And Apple Intelligence, for all you iPhone users out there, has been summarizing emails and texts and all kinds of stuff now. Well, I hit the summarize button while we were talking about that, and it did a damn good job of just AI summarizing the article. Okay. And I was like, that's a pretty quick way to just
digest the information.
Yeah, to just quickly digest what's in there. Now you have to, if you're not going to read the whole thing, you're kind of trusting the AI to get it right.
Yeah.
But and then we did read the article, so I know that the AI got it right in that case. But
that's cool.
Just check that out. It was, and I only saw it because I went into reader mode. So that was an interesting thing.
That's super cool.
Anyway, back to this one. So researchers did a genetic analysis of the people buried at a Celtic cemetery in England.
Yeah, and the cemetery belongs to the Durotriges tribe of Celtic people, and it dates to about 2,000 years ago. The site itself is at Winterbourne Kingston in Dorset, UK.
The Durotriges. Is that how we're going to say it?
I don't know. How else would you say
Durotrigs?
Durotrigs?
Durotrigs. The Durotriges. Who knows? It's Durotriges. So pronounce it how you will.
Durotriges?
Durotriges? Yeah.
Yeah.
I probably don't even have the emphasis on the right syllable.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Anyway, they occupied the central southern, which we're going to be in a month and a half, English coast from around 100 BC to AD 100, so just a couple hundred years, and probably spoke a Celtic language.
Yeah.
Yes. Listen to a lot of Enya. Yeah.
And Iron Age burials in Britain are relatively rare because they often cremated their dead, number one. Or if they didn't cremate them, then they would deposit them in like wetlands or just, anywhere they would bury their dead. That would just decompose everything. And even the bones would be fully decomposed. So we would just have nothing left to look at of the burials.
Yep. The D people, which I'm going to call them, were different because they buried their dead in formal cemeteries in the chalk landscape, which helped preserve them.
Yeah. I guess it's the chalk, like you see the chalk cliffs, right?
Is it just the White Cliffs of Dover. That's all chalk.
Yeah. It's just like chalk, like right below the surface too, and you just like dig into it.
I imagine in some places it is.
I guess it must be, huh?
Yeah, there's chalk all over the place, and I mean, I would be willing to bet in some places there's soil development. You could have been farmers.
Yeah, right.
But you dig down far enough, and you get the chalk bedrock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
So the women in the cemetery were more often buried with valuable items, more valuable than their male counterparts. And that suggests, of course, that they had high status. And, when you have women of higher status, then that could potentially suggest that the society was like more women centric or women held higher status or something. Something slightly different is going on here than the typical assumption anyway.
Real quick here. We always make the assumption across all cultures throughout all time until we are proven otherwise, that if you're buried with nicer things, so to speak, or more things, that you have a higher status.
Well, you had more money. You had more things equals more money equals more status, right?
Right. And we would assume that grave robbers would assume that as well. Like they're going to go to the high status burials to find the good stuff, right? Well, if people figured that out, that, hey, our graves are getting robbed, do you think somebody would have said, hey, maybe we should put all our good stuff in the lady graves because they're not going to get robbed?
I don't think that their first thought when they're burying their dead is how to trick grave robbers, though.
Tell that to the Egyptians.
Well, maybe, but I think it was more about honoring the person that died in their afterlife. So, well, I see your point. Right. I don't know that they would have adjusted. Yeah, it's all about the religion and the ritual. Yeah, they can't get past the. Yeah, they're not thinking of grave robbers. Right. Right. And if they are thinking of grave robbers, they're thinking about like better caskets or tombs or tricks and stuff like that. So how to keep them out, not to. It's just something I was thinking about. Yeah, like would somebody have done that? But that is why we have elaborate things like pyramids and that's elaborate graves to try to keep them out. Yeah. Right. Anyway, researcher Laura Cassidy and her team decided to analyze the genomes of 55 individuals buried at the cemetery, and the results were kind of shocking. Yeah, we really were shocked. Yeah. Archaeologists are shocked. That's what they should have had this article be called. They should have. Yeah. But they found that the same genetic sequence in the mitochondrial DNA. Sorry, let me start over. They found the same genetic sequence in the mitochondrial DNA of more than 2/3 of the individuals. And what that means is that these individuals, 2/3 of them, all descended from a single maternal lineage that originated with some common female ancestor, probably centuries earlier. Right. That's what mitochondrial DNA means. It's passed down by the mother, and it's mostly unchanged from person to person too, I think, which is why it's really great for tracing this kind of lineage. Yeah. Yeah, and that basically indicates... my new favorite word. Matrolocality. Yeah. Or husbands moving to live with their wives' families was the norm for this locality. Yeah. Which is unusual. Because the wives weren't moving. Usually we assume, we being the modern we, assume that groups in the past were patrilocal, meaning that They went out and found brides elsewhere and brought them into their community.
Yeah.
But in this case, it seems like it was the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It still makes me wonder if like the men ranged out, and went and found a bride and was like, okay, I guess I'm living here now.
Yeah. Like,
yeah. How did that work?
How did that work? Yeah.
Did they meet at a location like Stonehenge, for example?
Oh, yeah.
Sure. During some big kind of festival ritual thing, and then pair off.
Right. Find your mate, and then the men would move around,
head off
with
to her
their
village.
New families. Yeah, maybe that would make sense because we certainly know that there's definitely interchanging of people among these groups. It wasn't like there was like a lot of inbreeding or anything like that. There was fresh people coming into the group. It's just that the female line has this direct, unbroken thing going on.
England has a long history of arranged marriages too, and I just wonder where all that has a long history too. And I wonder, if there's a long line of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, though. Like, the arranged marriage thing was with royal people and high status people.
Yeah.
Like, your farmers are not engaging in arranged marriages for the most part, like, or merchants or whatever. Like,
no, but if a marriage suits somebody, they might push somebody one direction or another. Come on.
Well, sure. Yeah. It's the family has to approve of whoever your chosen mate is. But I think there was more choice there than, popular culture has you think sometimes.
Yeah.
But in this research, after they realized that they had this mitochondrial DNA connection through many of the inhabitants of the cemetery. Inhabitants, like they live there.
You drive a Cybertruck through there, you might think they do.
They broadened their research to include data from another large genetic survey of Iron Age Britain and Europe. So it was both.
Yeah.
And again, they found cemeteries across Britain where more individuals were maternal descendants of a small set of female ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
In Britain, not so much in Europe. So it just kind of adds to this like growing pile of evidence that Iron Age women were, relatively empowered, and like maybe these family groups or family communities were centered around the women and where they and they were the center of the family. Maybe they weren't making the decisions necessarily, but if the men are moving in with their brides, then that, tells you what kind of level of power the women in that community had.
Yeah.
I love this bit too, because part of what they were talking about was that apparently there's these Roman written accounts, contemporaneous Roman written accounts about these, so-called powerful women. And it was previously thought that it was sort of this exaggerated thing for like the Mediterranean audiences who were reading about this, the other Roman people who were like, oh, those crazy Celtic women who have all this power and do all these things. But anyway, I guess this evidence actually kind of backs it up. Like maybe they weren't exaggerating. Maybe they really did have quite a bit of power. So that's kind of cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Men still typically dominate formal positions of authority, according to the article.
Yeah.
But women can wield a huge influence through their strong networks of matrilineal relatives and their central role in the local economy. It just makes me think of Dune Prophecy, which we're watching right now.
Oh, yeah, totally.
We have one more episode to go.
Yeah. See, isn't that so interesting? Because that's a really good example of this, because this is like a female group who have so much power, but it's like power... They're standing behind the men who have the power, but they're pulling the strings. Power. Yeah, and they're controlling them. Yeah. So it is very similar to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. This is probably more of a working together scenario as opposed to a pulling the strings scenario. But
Never know.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
All right. Well, I don't know if it's going to be news or interview next time. We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. You'll find out too. It'll be great.
Hey. All right. See you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to The Archaeology Show. Feel free to comment and view the show notes on the website at www.arcpodnet.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at ArcPodNet. Music for this show is called I Wish You Would Look from the band Sea Hero. Again, thanks for listening and have an awesome day. The Archaeology Podcast Network is 10 years old this year. Our executive producer is Ashley Airy, our social media coordinator is Matilda Siebrecht, and our chief editor is Rachel Roden. The Archaeology Podcast Network was co-founded by Chris Webster and Tristan Boyle in 2014 and is part of Culturo Media and DigTech LLC.
This has been a presentation of the Archaeology Podcast Network. Visit us on the web for show notes and other podcasts at www.archpodnet.com. Contact us at chris@archaeologypodcastnetwork.com.